2 years ago, the hippie commune led by Charles Manson moved into this old Wild West film set just outside Los Angeles. And it was here that they were living on the night the alleged murders took place.
Before the Manson family murders, before Helter Skelter, and the cult that shocked America, there was a quiet movie ranch tucked away in the hills above Los Angeles. A forgotten patch of dirt and dust that once echoed with the sound of galloping horses and Hollywood gunfights. But by the late 1960s, that same ranch would become the home base for one of the most notorious cults in American history. This is the story of Spahn Ranch, from cowboy film set to cult compound. Right now I'm heading towards Spahn Ranch. I'm walking alongside the 27. This road goes all the way through Topanga to the beach. Spahn Ranch was once located right back here. I'll get there in a second. And this is where the Manson family lived in. But before the Manson family arrived, it was a Hollywood backlot used for Westerns. They had a Western town. All types of stuff was filmed there. Bonanza, a lot of old shows. In the 1940s and 50s, nestled in the rugged terrain of the Santa Susana Pass, the 55-acre Spahn Movie Ranch was a booming backdrop for B-Westerns and cowboy serials. With its weathered saloon facades, dirt roads, and rocky canyons, it became a go-to set for low-budget TV and film productions. The Lone Ranger, Bonanza, and even The Creeping Terror were said to have filmed here. In 1953, an aging dairy farmer named George Spahn purchased the property. Nearly blind and in his 60s, Spahn turned the place into a working ranch, where locals could ride horses and brush shoulders with Hollywood's idea of the frontier. He lived there with his manager and companion, Ruby Pearl, and a rotating cast of cowboys, stuntmen, and drifters. By the mid-1960s, as the popularity of Westerns faded, so too did the ranch. Its film sets decayed, the tourists stopped coming, and George Spahn found himself alone, until a new kind of character came looking for shelter. When Charles Manson arrived at Spahn Ranch in the summer of 1968, he was no ordinary drifter. He was a career criminal, a failed musician, and a charismatic manipulator who had already spent much of his life behind bars. But in the social chaos of the late 1960s, Manson found fertile ground for something darker: control. The ranch, crumbling and forgotten, was the perfect hideout. George Spahn, nearly blind and 80 years old by this time, lived alone in a modest house near the horse stables. In exchange for room and board, Manson offered labor. His devoted group of young women, many of them estranged from their families, cooked, cleaned, and guided Spahn around the property, while keeping him company. Every night at the ranch, after long days of scavenging, drug use, and trips into the suburbs, Manson would gather the family around a fire. He played guitar, quoted the Bible, and laid out a doomsday prophecy, an impending race war that he called Helter Skelter, inspired by his twisted interpretation of the Beatles' White Album. Manson claimed that Black Americans would rise up and exterminate white people, but unable to govern themselves, they would look to him, Manson, to lead them. The family would survive by hiding in the desert, in a bottomless pit Manson insisted was near Death Valley. Once the war ended, they would emerge and rule the earth. The plan was as delusional as it was dangerous. And in August of 1969, Manson decided the time had come to start the fire himself. On August 8th, he ordered followers to the former house of record producer Terry Melcher, who had once rejected Manson's music. It didn't matter that Melcher had moved out by this time. Manson wanted blood. What happened next shocked the world. 5 people were slaughtered in the middle of the night. Actress Sharon Tate, 8 months pregnant. Celebrity hairstylist Jay Sebring. Coffee heiress Abigail Folger. Her partner Wojciech Frykowski. And 18-year-old Stephen Parent, an unlucky visitor. The next night, Manson himself accompanied the group on another mission, this time targeting Leno and Rosemary LaBianca, a well-to-do couple living in Los Feliz. Manson tied them up, left, and told his family to finish the job. They stabbed them dozens of times. Messages like "Rise" and "Death to Pigs" were smeared on the walls in blood. Manson's hope that the murders would be blamed on black revolutionaries, and that society would spiral into chaos. Back at Spahn Ranch, the family carried on as if nothing had happened. They stripped stolen cars for parts, built dune buggies to prepare for the coming apocalypse, and partied in the canyon's shadows. Some danced barefoot through the brush, others practiced knife fighting, and listened as Manson ranted about the Armageddon. Just days after the murders, authorities raided Spahn Ranch, not for homicide, but on suspicion of stolen vehicles. Manson and several family members were arrested, but due to a technicality in the warrant, they were released. That brief window gave the family time to flee to the even more remote Barker Ranch in Death Valley. But their crimes would soon catch up to them. Eventually, investigators began connecting the dots, thanks in part to tips from former members and inmates who had overheard chilling confessions. In October, Manson was arrested again, this time found hiding in a cupboard at the Barker Ranch. What started as a crumbling movie set became the stage for a real-life horror story. After the bloodshed, after the arrests, and after the trials, Spahn Ranch didn't just fade away. It literally burned. On a hot September afternoon in 1970, just over a year after the Tate LaBianca murders, a wildfire swept through the Santa Susana Pass. Flames tore through the dry brush and engulfed what remained of the Spahn Movie Ranch. The saloon, the fake storefronts, the bunkhouses, the entire western town was reduced to ash and blackened earth. Whether the fire was an accident or something more deliberate remains a mystery. But for many in Los Angeles, it felt like nature itself had scorched the scene of the crime. George Spahn, the blind patriarch of the property, survived the fire. He lived for 4 more years, returning to a modest life in North Hollywood, with the wife he had once left behind. He died in 1974, at the age of 85. After his death, there were plans to redevelop the land, first as a tourist attraction, later as a Christian daycare center, but nothing stuck. The land was eventually absorbed into the Santa Susana Pass State Historic Park. This whole flat area right behind me is where the ranch used to be. So, right up this trail is the cave. You guys are gonna see it in a second. It's right up here. That's the cave where the Manson family took their famous photo. I'll be putting it in this video. You guys can see it. And I'm gonna start getting out of here because it's getting dark. It's kind of creepy. But there it is. See the inside of it. This whole area would have been probably full of cars, all types of stuff. Maybe little hangout areas, campfires for the family. The story of Spahn Ranch isn't just about Charles Manson. It's about isolation, manipulation, and what happens when lost people follow the wrong voice too far. Even now, over 50 years later, its shadow still lingers.